Hey, it's Medium Jenny Lee. I'm here at the next Raw discussion. We're on session 30, making this video number 31. Let's get into it. All right, Dawn's first question. This is a statement. Creation is a single entity or unity. If only a single entity exists, then the only concept of service is service to self. If this single entity subdivides, then the concept of service of one of its parts to the other is born. From this concept springs the equality of service to self. It would seem that as the logos subdivided, parts would select each orientation. As individualized entities emerge in space-time, then I would assume that they have polarity. Is that statement correct? The statement is quite perceptive and correct until the final phrase. Good job, Dawn, in which we note that the polarities begin to be explored only at a point when a third density entity becomes aware of the possibility of choice between the concept or distortion of service to self or service to others. This marks the end of what you may call the unself-conscious or innocent phase of conscious awareness. So everything Dawn said was true, except for the polarities. Polarities don't start until the third density entity becomes aware that there is a choice. Would you define mind, body, and spirit separately? These terms are all simplistic descriptive terms which equal a complex of energy focuses. The body, as you call it, being the material of the density which you experience at a given time or space or time-space. This space-time or time-space. This complex of materials being available for distortions of what you would call physical manifestation. Okay, so the body's just a physical thing. The mind is a complex which reflects the inpourings of the spirit and the uppourings of the body complex. I like that, uppourings, coming up through the body. So the inpourings from spirit and the uppourings from the body itself. It contains what you know as feelings, emotions, and intellectual thoughts in its more concise complexities. Moving further down the tree of the mind, we see the intuition, which is of the nature of the mind, more in contact or in tune with the total beingness complex. So I still am kind of a little bit confused about the tree of the mind. I kind of get it, and I kind of don't get it. But intuition here is nature of the mind that's more in contact with the total beingness complex, which remember is your total beingness complex is your crown chakra, the violet ray. Moving down to the roots of the mind, we find the progression of consciousness, which gradually turns from personal to racial memory. And here they're not talking about race like somebody's a white person and somebody's a black person or a Hispanic person. They're talking about a human. Remember, we're talking about some alien entities here. So the human memory to the cosmic influxes. So let's look at that sentence again. Moving down the roots of mind, we find the progression of consciousness, which gradually turns from personal to racial, which is human, memory, to the cosmic influxes, things from outside of our earth, and thus becomes a direct contactor of that shuttle, which we call the spirit complex. The spirit complex is the channel whereby the inpourings from all the various universal, planetary, and personal inpourings may be funneled into the roots of consciousness, and whereby consciousness may be funneled to the gateway of intelligent infinity through the balanced intelligent energy of body and mind. So let's review. Body is the physical, chemical makeup which holds the mind, which is taking in spirit, things from the body, intellectual thoughts, intuition, personal and human memory, and influxes from outside of the earth. And the spirit is the impouring from all the things into the consciousness. And then that can also be funneled to the intelligent infinity, which is everything. Through the balanced, intelligent energy of body and mind. So if your body and mind are balanced, you can access intelligent infinity through the spirit complex. You will see by this series of definitive statements that mind, body, and spirit are inextricably intertwined and cannot continue one without the other. That's interesting, because we like to think that when the body dies and the mind and this, we think there's a lot of speculation here. When the body dies, the mind dies, but the spirit continues. But here Ra's saying that it's all so intertwined that it can't exist without the other. Thus, we refer to the mind-body-spirit complex rather than attempting to deal with them separately, for the work that you do during your experiences is done through the interaction of these three components and not through any one. You're not just experiencing things with your body. You're not just experiencing things through your mind. You're experiencing them through your mind, body, and spirit. So Dawn's next question. Upon our physical death, we lose this chemical body. Do we maintain a different type of body? Is there still a mind-body-spirit complex at that point? Excellent question, Dawn. That's what I was wondering. And this is what Ra says. That is correct. The mind-body-spirit complex is quite intact. The physical body complex you now associate with the term body being but a manifestation of a more dense and intelligently informed and powerful body complex. What does this mean? What does this mean? This means a lot of things. That when this thing dies, there's still a body. Not this body, but some other kind of body. Which is crazy, because I know that for many, many years now, I have solely thought of this body, this fleshy, blood-filled sack of meat, as the container for which my soul exists. But here is Ra saying that there's some other kind of body that houses the mind, not just the spirit, but the mind, the consciousness. Scientifically, we want to think of the mind as just being our physical brain, which is part of this physical body. But the mind is the consciousness, which exists without the brain. So what is going on here? So let's read this little part again. The physical body complex you now associate with the term body, what we are thinking of as a body. But, okay, see, this whole sentence is just confusing. The mind-body-spirit complex is quite intact. The physical body you now associate with the term body, being but manifestation of a more dense and intelligently informed and powerful body complex. So this physical, fleshy, blood-filled sack of meat is just a manifestation for something that we actually are in a different dimension. I don't know about you guys, but it's real confusing and I can't wrap my head around it yet, but there's more. Dawn's next question: is there any loss to the mind or spirit after this transition, which we call death, or any impairment of either because of the loss of this chemical body? There is a great loss of mind complex due to the fact that much of the activity of the mental nature of which you are aware during the experience of your time-space continuum is as much of your surface illusion as is the body complex, chemical body complex. So there is a great loss of mind because we associate it so much with the brain. That's what I'm taking. In other terms, nothing, whatever of importance, is lost. The character or pure distillation of emotions and biases and distortions and wisdoms becoming obvious for the first time. These pure emotions and wisdoms and bias distortions being for the most part either ignored or underestimated during physical life experience. So Ra's saying that when the physical body dies, we lose part of our mind complex, but nothing of importance, because we still maintain our character and everything we thought and felt and our biases and our wisdoms, but we understand it to a greater extent. In terms of the spiritual, this channel, this spirit, is then much opened due to the lack of necessity for the forgetting characteristic of a third density. In terms of the spiritual, this channel is then much open due to the lack of necessity for the forgetting characteristic of the third density. So you lose your forgetting. And apparently that would mean that you would remember things that you once had forgot because you came into the third density. Dawn's next question: I'd like to know how the mind-body-spirit complexes originate, going back as far as necessary. Do they originate by spirit forming mind and mind forming body? When we ask you to consider that you are attempting to trace evolution. This evolution is as we have previously described, which was in session 13. The consciousness being first. So basically that's the mind, right? Mind is consciousness, so mind comes first. In first density, without movement a random thing. So it just happens. Whether you call this mind or body complex is a semantic problem. So I would think that the consciousness is the mind, but I guess it could go either way. We call it mind-body complex, recognizing always that in the simplest iota of this complex exists in its entirety the one infinite creator. The mind-body complex then in second density, discovering the growing and turning toward the light, thus awakening the spirit complex. So mind and body kind of go together. And then they move into spirit. It's all there. It's always there. But it's becoming aware of it. That which intensifies the upward spiraling toward the love and light of the infinite creator. The addition of this spirit complex, though apparent rather than real, is having existed potentially from the beginning of space-time, perfects itself by graduation into third density. When the mind-body-spirit complex becomes aware of the possibility of service to self or service to other self, then the mind-body-spirit complex is activated. So the spirit complex is once again, it's existed there, had the potential to exist from the beginning. But as it moves into third density and discovers that it can either serve itself or serve others, then it's when the whole thing becomes activated. Next question. On this planet, during the second density, I believe there was habitation at some time-space of bipedal entities of what we call dinosaurs. Is this correct? Of course. There's dinosaurs. The two types of entities seem to be incompatible. Can you tell me the reason behind both types of entities inhabiting the same space-time? So let's go back here. Don was saying that bipedal entities and dinosaurs existed at the same time. So I read that wrong, which I read it wrong the first time too. Not bipedal dinosaurs, bipedal entities and dinosaurs. So there's bipedal human people of some sort walking around with the dinosaurs. And then Ross says yes. Don wants to know why. Consider the workings of free will as applied to evolution. There are paths that the mind-body-spirit complex follows in an attempt to survive, to reproduce, and to seek in its fashion that which is unconsciously felt as the potential for growth. These two arenas or paths of development being two among many. So the dinosaurs was just another attempt at the one infinite source, the creator knowing itself. Very cool. Why did the dinosaurs vanish? What was the reason? These entities could not feed their body complexes. So there's been a lot of speculation why the dinosaurs disappeared. Ross says they couldn't feed themselves because they're too damn big. Dinosaurs are too freaking big. And that's not what Ross says, but that's what I'm guessing. They couldn't feed themselves. Okay. Now, moving to something completely different. In second density, the concept of bisexual reproduction first originates. That means male and female, not bisexual as in, you know what I'm talking about. Don means that a male and a female have to be together to reproduce. And Don asks if that happens in the second density first. And Ross says correct. Can you tell me the philosophy behind this mechanism of propagation of the body complex? Second density is the one in which the groundwork is being laid for third density work. In this way, it may be seen that the basic mechanisms of reproduction capulate into a vast potential in the third density for service to other self and to self, thus being not only by the functions of energy transfer, but also the various services performed due to the close contact of those who are magnetically attracted, these entities thus having the opportunities for many types of service which would be unavailable to the independent entity. So there's a lot of stuff going on in this paragraph. But basically, I think it's saying that the process of reproducing between a male and a female offers a lot of opportunities for services to others. Okay, all right. Was the basic reason to increase opportunity for experience of the one creator? This is not merely correct, but is the key to which occurs in all densities. So you have to have more people in order to experience more stuff. So making more people is the key to that process. Does the process of bisexual reproduction play a part in spiritual growth of second density entities? In isolated instances, this is due to the efficient perceptions upon the part of entities or species. For the greater part, this is not the case in second density, the spiritual potentials being those of third density. So sometimes, but not usually. This part is really funny because all I saw at first was Gandalf, and I was like, what in the hell is Dawn asking about now? But Gandalf is his cat. I was wondering if the male cat Gandalf has benefited by that mechanism, or by other mechanisms in increasing spiritual potential. So let's just pause here for a second. I love that, like, Dawn is always trying really hard to just stick to the law of one and asking questions about the law of one, but then he just goes off on these side tangents about asking about weird things, where now he's asking about his cat. But it's all connected. Like, all the questions he asks gives us answers about things that are part of the whole. And the stuff that's getting ready to come up with his cat is exactly what he was asking in the last question. Like, this is an example of what he was asking in the last question about whether second density beings can have this spiritual growth through this bisexual reproduction. And lo and behold, Dawn thinks that his cat Gandalf is some extra special cat that had some extra special things happen to him. And he was. Let's read about it. We examine this information and find it harmless. The second density entity, Gandalf, is a rare sample of its species, due first to previous individualization. So at some point he had already become individualized, probably as a pet in a previous life. Secondly, due to a great amount of investment in this particular life experience. She's very invested in being Gandalf this time around. This is the greatest catalyst in this entity's progress. It is very unusual. The experiences of bisexual reproduction, which were of the nature of this entity Gandalf, were, to a small extent, of spiritual benefit due to an unusual relationship with another entity that was also a cat, thank goodness. This entity also being an unusually third density orientation from a previous life experiences. Thus, the formation of what you could be seen to be recognizably love did exist in this relationship. Oh, kitty love. So Gandalf the cat was getting it on with some lady cat, and because they both had previous lives where they had been individualized, they were more aware of their self. They were more self-aware than a normal typical cat, that when they got together they actually experienced love for each other. That's so sweet. And it makes me wonder, where is Gandalf now? Has Gandalf become a person yet? Because it seemed like he was well on his way to working up the densities there. Has Gandalf reached their density yet? Inquiring minds want to know. Can you give me a brief history of the metaphysical principles of the development of each of our planets around the sun and their function with respect to evolution of beings? This is a very interesting part. We shall give you a metaphysical description only of those planets upon which individual mind, spirit, body complexes have been, are, or shall be experienced. You may understand the other spheres to be part of the logos. So Ra's only going to tell us about the planets in our solar system that either had mind, body, spirit complexes, have them now, or will have them in the future. And just know that all the rest of them, even though they don't have the potential to have mind, body, spirit complexes, are still part of our logos of creation. So they're going to start with Venus, which is the one they're from. We take the one known as Venus. The planetary sphere was one of rapid evolution. It is our native Earth, their native planet, and the rapidity of the mind-body-spirit complexes upon its surface was due to harmonious interaction. Well, goodness gracious, thank goodness somebody can get their shit together. It was people from Venus. They got their shit together so quickly that they don't even have to be on it anymore. And then there's the rest of us. Okay, upon the entity known to you as Mars, the entity was stopped in the mid-third density, thus being unable to continue its progression due to the lack of hospitable conditions upon the surface. This planet shall be undergoing healing for some of your space-time millennium. So Mars had people on it of some sort. Remember, they screwed themselves up. They weren't able to finish their third density progression. So all the spirits of Mars had to come here. And that's how human beings were created, according to Ra. The entities from the Confederation used bodies that were already here and modified them enough that the spirits from Mars could come into third density bodies and have somewhere to be. The planet which you dwell upon has a metaphysical history well known to you. So they're not going to talk to us about Earth. Now, they're going to talk about Saturn and Uranus. But they didn't talk about Maldek. I guess because Maldek doesn't exist anymore as a planet. But remember, Maldek was also a planet. It is now our asteroid belt. And it was a planet that had third density entities on it who completely destroyed their planet by blowing it to pieces. And they had to come here and live as second density beings again. And now what's left of them is our Sasquatches. There's a squatch in them woods. Okay, the planet known as Saturn has a great affinity for the infinite intelligence. Thus, it has been dwelled upon in its magnetic fields of time-space by those who wish to protect your system. So it seems to me that Saturn does not have any physical, what we would think of as peoples, but it can be habited by mind-body-spirit complexes that don't have the same kind of physical bodies that we do. And whoever can just go there and hang out that wants to help protect our solar system. Now this is cool. Uranus is slowly moving through the first density and has the potential for moving through all the densities. Sweet! So maybe one of these days we'll go live on Uranus. When Earth gets blown up, when we blow Earth to smithereens, maybe we'll be able to go have bodies on Uranus. Maybe. Okay. I was wondering if any of the planets have a metaphysical evolution. Had a metaphysical evolution. You stated yesterday that much of the major galactic system dwells spiritually as part of the Logos. By that, do you mean that nearer the center of the major galactic system, that the stars there do not have planetary systems? Incorrect. The Logos has distributed itself throughout your galactic system. However, the time-space continua of some of the more central sun system is much further advanced. Can you generally say that as you get closer to the center of our major galactic system, there is a greater spiritual density? Or that this general spiritual quality is advanced at that area? The spiritual density or mass of those more towards the center of your galaxy is known. However, this is due simply to the varying timelessness states but during which the planetary spheres may coalesce. This process of space-time beginnings occurring earlier as you approach the center of the galactic spiral. So the stuff in the middle is much older, so it's had more time to progress. So kind of what Donna's asking is true. So then we're getting to the last part of this session. The instrument, Carla, would like to know if you could tell her whether or not this term, which is called Sam Miller's Polarizer, would help her physical being. Sam Miller's Polarizer. Did I look this up? I don't have any notes on it. Let's look it up right now together. Wakey, wakey, computer. What is Sam Miller's polarizer? I feel like I might have looked it up. Polarizer. I wonder if we'll even be able to find it. I'm sure we can, because people have researched this and studied these books for so long now. There's got to be something about it. Okay, here's something. I think I found something. CAC's founder, which I don't know what CAC is, Sam Miller made a magnetic polarizer that we carried decades ago. Oh, it's a video that isn't available anymore. Sam Miller is also a crime writer from Northern Ireland. I don't think that's the right person. Okay, here's an advertisement for it. The magnetism. New Age answer to the aging problem? Get polarized. Cosmic Awareness evaluates the Sam Miller polarizer. The advantage of sleeping with the head to the north. How to use the Sam Miller polarizer. It looks like it was some sort of device that had to do with magnetism that maybe supposedly helped you not age or something. I don't know. We're going to keep reading. As we scan the instrument, Carla, we find anomalies of the magnetic field which are distorted towards our ability to find narrow band channel into the instrument's body-spirit complex. So remember, the narrow band channel is what they're using to communicate through Carla. The polarizer of which you speak would not be helpful. A careful reading of its instrument's aura by those gifted in this area and subsequent alterations of the magnetizing forces of this polarizer would assist the entity, Sam, in creating such a polarizer that would be of some aid to the instrument. So they're saying that people who could read the instrument and give some alterations to it, Sam could make something that would help her, but the thing he made is not going to be helpful. However, we would suggest that no electrical or magnetic equipment not necessary for recording be brought into the sessions. We wish for no distortions that are not necessary. So have something to record them speaking, but that's it. And then the last little bit here, Dawn always asks if there's anything they can do to help Carla be more comfortable. This is what Ross says this time. This instrument has certain difficulties of distortion you would call the muscular spasm, thus making the motionless position uncomfortable. So her body's getting a little spazzed out because she's having to lay still for so long. But I like this part right here. Little encouragement from Ra. You are doing well, my friends. Good job, guys. All right, that's the end of this session. Let's look back over and see what we learned today. There's some really interesting stuff in this session. Okay. We learned that the polarization between self and other self doesn't happen until there's an awareness that you can even choose between self and other self. We learned a little bit more about the difference between mind, body, and spirit, and how important they are together. We learned that when we die, that we still have a physical body of some sort, which just brings up about 8 million other questions. And then they talked about some more about the evolution from second density into third density. Humans and dinosaurs did exist at the same time, but for no real reason other than the fact that it was just two different entities existing at the same time trying to experience different things. Ross says dinosaurs vanished because they couldn't eat enough. Started talking about male and female reproduction, which comes up a lot more in some further sessions down the road here. And one of my favorite parts of this session was Gandalf the cat and how he found kitty love. And then the last part, which was super interesting, was all the planets in our solar system that have had or will have third density beings on it. And finding out that the center of the galaxy is definitely older and has had more time to reach for the spiritual, move through the densities. But Rob was still real mysterious about that. Wouldn't tell us too much. But you know, free will, law of confusion, whatever. We can't know about it. Everything's a mystery. But there's no mystery to whether you liked this video or not. So give it a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe if you haven't already. Please join the discussion. What do you think about all this? Questions, comments, concerns, complaints? You can't complain about kitty love and a cat named Gandalf. I'll tell you that much right now. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And I'll be back with another one as soon as possible. Bye.